Hello, my name is Hanif Helmi, and my student ID is 8111419109, and I'm from International Class 2019. This video is made to fulfill the assignment of the course Law and Politics, lectured by Mr. Dani Muhtada. In this video, I will present to you my paper about legal and political dynamics of alcoholic beverage investment, as regulated in Presidential Regulation Number 10 of 2021 regarding investment business sector. In this video, we will discuss about how are the legal and political dynamics that occur regarding alcoholic beverage investment as regulated in Presidential Regulation Number 10 of 2021, and what are the relations between law and politics that affect Presidential Regulation Number 10 of 2021, specifically regarding alcoholic beverage investment. So before further ado, we will first answer the question of what is alcoholic beverage and why it is such a controversy. So alcoholic beverage is a term that refers to a type of beverage that usually made of fermented goods, such as fruits like grapes, and then apples, and cereals such as rice and malt. Alcoholic beverages contain psychoactive ingredients in the form of ethanol and have side effects, namely digression or inebriation, or generally people know it as drunkenness. Responsible consumption of alcoholic beverages will usually cause problems and social rejection because of the negative connotation of drunkards, which is seen as causing riots both domestically and in public places. So various perspectives such as psychology, health, socioculture, and religion have their own assessment of the consumption of alcoholic beverages. Psychological studies see alcoholic beverages as a means of recreation that can trigger addiction and damage the mind if consumed in the long term, while health sciences assess alcohol consumption as the consumption of substances that could damage the organs and the body. However, in contrast to biological and scientific studies that assess rationally and focus on the subject of mental and physical health, socio-humanities and religious studies have various assessments, views that are not necessarily called ethical because of the different benchmarks used in various communities in the world. So how does the world sees alcoholic beverage consumption? So as I have said before, in the perspective of cultural and religious values, the consumption of alcohol has various notions. The culture of alcohol and liquor consumption has become an inseparable aspect that is homogeneously very acceptable for the communities in the Western Hemisphere. For example, the Germanic society and the dependence on beer, the Romans and Mediterranean society and their dependence on wine, and how Slavic people being dependent on vodka. This is actually not without a reason, given that the geographical location inhabited by these communities has a very cold climate, so that the consumption of alcohol, which is considered as a way to warm up the body, is very, very reasonable. This is different when we discuss about alcohol consumption in the Eastern Hemispherical view, which has a diverse branch of culture and thoughts regarding the consumption of alcoholic beverages. Consumption of alcoholic beverages is common and acceptable in East Asian cultures, such as Chinese, Korean, and Japanese cultures. We can see like the Korean have their sojus and the Chinese have their sakes. But however, in Central Asia, South Asia, and the Middle East, and including, of course, a region, the Southeast Asia, whereas the region are significantly Muslim-dominated, alcohol consumption, which is revered al-khamar in Islamic teachings, is uncommon and even prohibited or haram. Alcohol consumption is then also an object in a religious perspective about whether it is permissible or not. In Abrahamic religion, for example, such as Judaism and Christianity, the consumption of alcohol is limited and permissible, but overindulgence that leads into inebriation or drunkenness is seen as a sinful act. Islam, however, forbids all types of recreational alcohol consumption, and its consumption, whether it is intoxicating or not, deemed as a sinful act and will invalidate worship for a certain period of time. Dharmic religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism do not have absolute standards as to what is permissible and what is not allowed. But texts such as the Vedas and the Upanishads forbid the consumption of intoxicants. The Buddhist teaching of Panchasila also sees intoxications or drunkenness are as an acceptable act. Now, starting from how social and cultural religious perspective of alcohol consumption, Indonesia has a very complex frequency of discussion about alcohol consumption. Various regulations regarding their circulation, legality, and consumption of alcoholic beverages have been issued and oftenly being changed. Even so, the alcohol drinking culture is indeed exists in Indonesia. The Indonesians in central and eastern part of the country who are not in the sphere of Islamic religious influence still have a culture of alcohol consumption that is obtained either from past colonial influence or local endemic cultures in the consumption of fermented materials that are maintained. Some areas even have local alcoholic beverage that are unique and endemic from their respective regions. For example, the Arak Bali, which is being made in the island of Bali, in the province of Bali, and then the Chaptikus from the Minahasans people that is central in the province of the northern Sulawesi, and then Sofia from the island of Flores in eastern Nusa Tenggara, and then Swansrai from the island of Papua. So the legal provisions of alcoholic beverage consumption and industries. The existence of local alcoholic beverages is also seen by the government of the Republic of Indonesia as a wealth that has economic commodity value. Through Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021, which is a derivative regulations of the Job Creation Act number 11 of 2020, or popularly known as the Omnibus Law, states that the alcoholic beverage industry is one of the positive investment list. This means that this industrial business field can be declared absolutely legal and may accept investment if it meets certain requirements. This is actually contrary to the statement in the Presidential Regulation number 44 of 2016 on the negative investment list, the previous regulation regarding the alcoholic beverage investment, which means that the alcoholic beverage industry is a closed line of business that does not allow investment in the industry. So how did the public react? A social unrest, of course, occurred, and political polemic was born from the president's policy. The pros and cons between various groups emerged as a response to the regulation of investment in the alcoholic beverage sector. This contradiction is seen by the conservatives as a violation of socio-religious values in Indonesia, which is predominantly Muslim, as well as the view that investment in alcoholic beverage can lead to an increase in the consumption of alcoholic beverages within the community, which is indirectly seen as a seed for moral harm to society, a destruction of moral norms that can trigger other immoral acts such as rape, assault, murder, and all other acts. This political polemic then gave direction to the law, which then urged the government to revise its presidential regulation, which was later fulfilled by President Widodo in an amendment with the issuance of Presidential Regulation number 49 of 2021. So, in the beginning, we will have to turn back to time and talks about alcoholic beverage arrangement in Indonesia. The regulations and legislation regarding alcoholic beverage in Indonesia have undergone many changes, with the earliest regulations starting from the New Order government period, namely with the issuance of Presidential Decree number 3 of 1997 concerning the control and supervision of alcohol beverage. This presidential decree regulates the classifications on alcohol beverage and its ratings and consumptions, which is classified into 3 types. The Group A with an alcohol content of 1 to 5%, the Group B with an alcohol content of 5 to 20%, and Group C with an alcohol content of 20 to 55%. This classification of alcoholic beverage itself then becomes the basis for the legality of trade. Group A can be traded freely on a limited basis, provided that it is not traded within the environment of public education, villages, and health facilities, while groups B and C are traded on a limited basis in hotels and entertainment facilities, such as bars and restaurants and karaoke places. The sale and purchase of Class C alcoholic beverages has other requirements related to quality standards. The presidential decree also regulates that the imposition of excise and sets a minimum alcohol consumption limit of 21 years old. This presidential decree was then revised with the presidential regulation, which is in number 74 of 2013 concerning the control and supervision of alcoholic drinks. This presidential regulations has strictened the rules about how the tradings on alcoholic beverage should be opposed in Indonesia. And how is that occurred is because that the President Decree number 3 of 1997 was being deemed has become unconstitutional by specifically mentioning the incongruence of the President Decree against Pancasila and the 1945 Constitution, and then specifically into the Health Act number 36 of 2009, Consumer Protection Act number 8 of 1999, and Food Act number 7 of 1996. Restrictions on the circulation of alcoholic beverages, especially in areas with significant concentrations of conservative Muslims, groups such as Aceh, West Sumatra, and Banten, who view the trading of alcoholic beverage as a violation of the Sharia. As a substitute and complement, the presidential decree was then being revised by Presidential Regulation number 74 of 2013 concerning the control and supervision of alcoholic drinks, as I've said before. The regulation regarding the management of the alcoholic beverage industry as a closed business sector, which is not allowed for the investment sector, was then renewed in the Presidential Regulation number 44 of 2016 concerning lists of business fields closed and business fields open with conditions in the investment sector. This legal provision regarding the trade and industry of alcoholic beverages then underwent a quite extreme overturn after the issuance of the Job Creation Act, number 11 of 2020, or what is known as the Omnibus Law. So the Job Creation Act has a very big provisions and derivative regulations, which is impacting on the alcohol beverage industry. In the Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021, investment in the alcoholic beverage industry was then included in the list of business fields with certain requirements, which are listed in attachment number 3 to the Presidential Regulation in 3 categories of business fields among 46 business, with the same requirements that are open to conditional investments, namely the alcoholic liquor industry that is made from grapes into wines, for example. And then the second was alcoholic wine industry. And then the third was malt beverage industry. In addition, the presidential regulation also provides space for retail trade on liquor or alcoholic beverages and small retailer trade on liquor or alcohol to become a conditional limited investment field. However, the decision to issue this presidential regulation was not immediately carried out without any considerations to the socio-cultural aspects of the community. The government has reviewed and determined the implementation of the permissibility of investment in the alcoholic beverage industry in 4 provinces that have local culture on tolerating the recreational alcohol consumption without conflicting with cultural or religious values, which namely will be practiced on Bali, Northern Sulawesi, East Nusa Tenggara, and Papua. However, there are pros and cons. Especially for the political perspective, there are 2 main polarities whom agreed with the enactment of these presidential regulations, and other parties disagree for various reasons ranging from socio-cultural aspects, decency, and religious reasons. In the polemic and dialectic regarding the discussion of investment in alcoholic beverages, as regulated in Presidential Regulation Number 10 in 2021, of course, the control have stronger and dominant supporters, as considering the demographic and cultural facts of the Indonesian people who are predominantly Muslim and generally neither consume alcohol in terms of recreational needs nor as life survivor term as an established culture within the community. There are many contradictions and objections, especially from the government opposition groups, who sit in the center-right conservative wing of the parliament. This is also supported by many organizations and community groups from various backgrounds, namely the Muslim organizations. But on the other hand, the Indonesian people who are pro-liberal and secular interreligiously, as well as the community groups that are not part of the Islamic sphere of influence, see this as an opportunity for business and a development of regional income as well, as a form of normalization of the culture of recreational alcohol consumption, which is based on to the local wisdom of the local community. So there are, of course, there's the pros and the cons of these alcoholic beverage infestations. The supports for the alcoholic beverage infestations, for example, came from the government of the Bali province. The alcoholic liquor industry, which is declared as an open business field for new investment in the province of Bali, is seen as an opportunity to support regional income. It is also seen as being able to optimize the development of facilities and development of the traditional alcoholic beverage industry in Bali, which will create new jobs and support people's income. Balinese people also generally respond positively and appreciate this presidential regulation, which is seen as a normalization of recreational alcohol consumption, which is common for Balinese people. Of course, this was based again on the idea that the Balinese culture are entirely being independent from the Islamic sphere of influence, as the main religion in the island of Bali are Hinduism. Also, there's some opposition to the alcoholic beverage infestations. Muslim conservatives certainly have strong counter opinions voiced both individually and in groups. These opinions have diverse backgrounds, starting from rational thinking on the pretext of constitutional, psychological, health and morality, as well as doctrinal thinking based on the teachings of Islam, and of course, moral values based on Islamic teachings. The Indonesian Ulama Council, or MUI, stated that the opening of investment in the alcohol industry sector is seen as an indeed providing benefits, especially in the 4 designated areas. But this will cause huge losses for the future of the people, both in terms of the health of the nation and also the moral values of the nation. And then the 2 large Islamic community organizations, which is the Nahdlatul Ulama or NU and Muhammadiyah, also frankly rejected this provision on the grounds that investment income in the industrial sector is the same as justifying immorality, and also stains the state revenue with illicit or haram income. Contradictory opinion came in the other side, nevertheless, came from the government of Papua. It is in contrast to the view of the Bali government. The Papuan provincial government sees the policy in the presidential regulation as contradicting the special regulations or Perdasus number 13 of 2015 concerning the prohibition of alcohol in Papua. Papua Regional Secretary Mrs. Wakarwa said that investment in the alcoholic beverage industry has the potential to trigger an increase in irresponsible alcohol consumption, and this can trigger criminal acts and endanger the public. Therefore, the provincial government of Papua rejects the plan to legalize the alcoholic beverage industry infestation. So how did the legal and political dynamics affected the regulation? So Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021 is then seen politically as a regulation issued without regard to the interests and voices of the general public. Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021 was later revoked by President Widodo through the issuance of Presidential Regulation number 49 of 2021, which changes the substance of investment arrangement in the alcoholic liquor industry sector. This provision was cancelled due to strong contradictory opinions from many levels of the society. Apart from the political aspect, from the legal system theory developed by Lawrence M. Friedman, Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021 is also considered to be systemically flawed because it is against the legal culture in society, which specifically refers to the conventional stream, which is dominated by a taboo view of recreational alcohol consumption. And then we go into the conclusion. Presidential Regulation number 10 of 2021, which was later cancelled and revised with the issuance of Presidential Regulation number 49 of 2021, shows a legal dynamic of concrete political dialectics. Political views of the Indonesian people who are majoritarily against the normalization of alcohol consumption also affect their attitude towards the legalization plan for the investment in the alcoholic beverage industry. Various theories and opinions, both pros and cons, voiced by the relevant parties form a political direction that is full of thoughts and values of culture, religion, and sociological studies under the pretext of preventing the destruction of morals and decency of the society, especially the young generation of the nations. The effect of ethanol, which were viewed to damage morale, later became the beginning of the polemic of the rejection. We see this idea as a political view, which in turn shapes the current reality after this presidential regulation was later cancelled and revised. I think that is all for the presentation that I could give to you. Thank you for listening. And if you find anything to ask about the material that I've just presented to you, would you please just write down in the comment below. Thank you for your attention and see you